182 miles in, the heat got to me. Mind you, I'd driven this road many, many times in all sorts of conditions. This time was different. I was on a motorcycle. The desert heat just wears you down, mile by mile. We're here at Kramer Junction. What is this? Somewhere off the 395, heading out to Lake Isabella. And it's 93 degrees out. It's hot. You know, when you're on a bike, you really feel every little degree of temperature change. So we're stopping, taking a break. Lake Isabella, a low-lying lake at the southern terminus of the Sierra Nevada range, wasn't our final destination, however. It was just the first campground along the road into more mountainous adventure. But amidst the heat and long hours on the bike, oh, what a welcome stop that lake proved to be. I got some sleeping. Yep, that's me. My name's John, and I'm no stranger to adventure. I used to be a rock climber and mountaineer, so sleeping under the stars isn't new to me. But now I'm dropping in on the far side of middle age, and sleeping in an RV is more my speed. Until this trip. Now we're just going where the road takes us and exchanging beds and lodges for sleeping bags and campgrounds. By we, I'm also referring to my traveling partner, Brian. He's a bit less of a risk taker than me, but he'll usually go along, so long as I'm the one out in front. Now maybe it's self-preservation to sit back, or maybe he doesn't mind my oversized ego taking the lead. But either way, he makes for an easy to get along with riding partner. Any complaints we might have soon turn to laughs once the whine of our inline twin engines disappears with the breeze into the pine trees. And into the pine trees we were bound, though our ultimate destination was still rather vague. Little did we know that getting there was to be a long, long, hot, demanding day of riding. Though we've both ridden more miles in a day, never have we leaned the bike through so many corners. From S-curves to hairpins and slow, dirty turns to long sweepers. Every mile that we covered was one earned from a demanding process of looking ahead, braking, leaning, and twisting the throttle. To paraphrase Robert Earl Keen, the road goes on forever and the corners never end. Yeah, take two. Wow, what a ride. We just went through some amazing twisties. These were the tightest turns I have ever been on in my life. There were 10-mile-an-hour corners that were truly 10-mile-an-hour corners. And just one right after the other. Just boom, boom, boom. There was even cows off to the side of the road. It was definitely cool, a fun experience. It was all fun and games until we got lost. We knew that we wanted to head north over Portuguese Pass, but what we didn't really know was how to get there or where to go once we arrived. Undeterred by such details, and with plenty of gas in the tank, we rode on towards the pass. Just as the low-lying oaks soon gave way to tall pines, the road too turned from wide and well-traveled into narrow, dirty, and mostly forgotten. Putting the adventure in adventure bike, we continued on along the worsening road until finally we made the pass. High fives followed with us thinking that the tough parts were behind us. Little did we know that the road ahead had other plans for us.
So here we are somewhere. We've been right along on a really bad paved road, and we made it to a bridge, and the bridge has a gate on it that's locked. So maybe we could squeeze through, but it doesn't really look like it. So we're probably going to have to turn around.
But turning around wasn't really an option. Even if we had the gas to make it back, we'd ridden too many slow, tedious hours to call it quits. To turn around now would be to admit defeat. Plus, there were never any signs warning us along the way, and the main road lay there merely yards away. I resolved to carry my bike across the creek if I had to. Fortunately, it didn't come to that. Judging that we could squeeze through the gap of fence and boulder blocking our way, we eased our bikes on through. The highway was ours once again.
That was a long session, man. And it's just turn after turn after turn after turn. Man, I think in my entire life, combined all the turns together, I don't know if I've done as many as I've done today.
After a short but welcomed rest for lunch in the little town of Pierpoint, we pressed on. Though our bikes were in need of gas, we reckoned we could take a slightly longer and more scenic route to the next service station. Dropping down out of the pines and into the yellowed, dry grass that gives the Golden State its name, we cut along an old wagon trail whose beat-up and barely patched asphalt seems to date from the last century as well. By the time we got to the foothill town of Yokel, my road-weary body was definitely ready for a break from the heat.
Wow, it's cooler in there.
Right now we're at Sequioa National Park. The ride was fan-fucking-tastic.
We're exhausted and we would like to stop for the night, and I understand you're full here. Is there any place, what's going to be the closest place where we can stop?
Let me see, because a little while ago I had somebody cancel. Let me see if it's been booked yet.
Wait, did she just say cancellation? That we could stay in the campground? What?
Man, we are so stoked. We got a camping spot in the heart of Sequioa National Park on a super crowded day. Somebody canceled at the last minute and we got it. Oh my God, it's been such a hard day of riding. This has been the hardest 200 miles I have ever ridden. Like every mile was just, you know, required something of me. There was no relaxing. It was either super hot or super twisty or technical, you know, or going through a goddamn gate. But we got a camp spot and I am so happy.
Though spending a night in the cool air of the high mountains refreshed our souls, our bodies were still beat from the long day prior. Instead of putting more miles on the bikes, we decided to spend the day touring the massive sequoias and enjoying the soothing river that ran alongside our camp. Using the recreation.gov website, we were able to secure another night in the campground. The day was ours to relax and recuperate.
Mono Rock?
Moro
Rock.
Moro Rock, yes.
Quite a hike.
Yeah, we hiked, it was 410 steps, so yeah, pretty exhausted over that one.
Well, I missed the kick in the big game, failed my driving test, misspelled my ex-girlfriend's name on the tattoo on my chest, 'cause I can't do nothing right, and I can't seem to get along. I've forgotten what it looks like on the other side of the road.
Leaving our camp for more scenery to explore, it was time for us to find the other side of asphalt, that being the dirt. Taking leave of the main highway through Sequioa National Park, we headed east into the backcountry along a Forest Service road. Almost according to script, it deteriorated from well-maintained to broken up to dirt and sand. For me, it was a chance to see how my new-to-me bike, a 2023 V-Strom 800 DE Adventure, could handle the soft stuff. Even fully loaded and sporting stock tires designed more for on-road than off, the bike handled the unpaved roads like a champ. Although I would have preferred to have carried on to the end of the road, we stopped at a convenient high point. Brian unfortunately had some bad off-road experience from rides past and suffered from some old injuries that had him reluctant to continue. So instead I used the stop as an excuse to pose my new bike for a sexy photo session with the remote mountains as a backdrop. At this point, I'd like to tell you more about how we finished up our little expedition in the dirt and continued up the highway towards Kings Canyon, about our detour towards Hume Lake via 10 Mile Road, about how, after another warm day in the saddle, we found a quiet spot where we could jump into the pristine water of the High Sierra to cool off. Unfortunately, I lost the card with that video. I suspect it's because I made fun of the sprawling Christian resort that overwhelmed the otherwise natural landscape of the mountains. And now God is punishing me. Moral of the story, don't anger God. He'll steal your video. The flip side of all of this is that the rugged landscape of Kings Canyon appears as though the Creator himself clawed his hand through the granite and limestone of the Southern Sierra. Even as the road continued to bend and twist, we couldn't help but steal awestruck gazes at the steep, rocky splendor before us. It's not uncommon for riders to bypass Kings Canyon since the road dead ends up the river, leaving only hiking trails to access the high mountains. Instead, many head north from Sequoia towards Yosemite. But to do so is to miss out not only on fabulous riding, but views to match. How do you know that you made it to the end of the road? When there's a sign there. Once we could go no further, it was time to turn around and set up camp. We were lucky to snag a spot next to the river where we could splash our bodies with some cold water and do a little playful exploring. The next day, it was back on the road. First, though, I had to drop my bike. Of course, dropping it was the easy part. The tough part was getting the loaded 500-pound bike back on two wheels. That took two of us. Once we were up and rolling, we reversed course back through the national park. This time, though, we had a destination in mind. Poring over the map of the national parks, I noticed Mineral King tucked away at the bottom of the guide. At 7,000 feet, I knew we'd sleep well in the chilly night air. So I booked a camp spot and away we went. I'd assumed that Mineral King would be some tourist-friendly mecca similar to our recent destinations. But how wrong I was. First off, the road ranged from blind one-lane curves to just beat up and bad. The hot Central California sun only made us more impatient for the cooler weather above. Then there was the road closure. Right at the heat of the day, when our fatigue was at its worst, a construction crew forced us to stop. The road would be closed for another hour, and then we would be guided through 11 miles of construction by a pilot truck. Lucky us, a creek running over water-smooth granite flowed next to our impromptu stop. With our body temperature spiking into heat exhaustion levels, we raced to the water, and I awkwardly slid down the moss-covered rock into a small pool. From grimly overheating to laughing in the sun-warmed creek, what a difference some fresh water makes.
We got to the point where the woman turned us around. I was like, fuck this. When we got here getting in the water, it's like
fuck yeah.
I'm glad she turned us around.
Right on.
Dude, this is just another sweet moment.
Finally, we once again made it to the end of the line. Though we enjoyed the alpine meadows and rocky peaks, we were happy to head back to the shaded forest where dinner on the patio awaited us. The only business in town was a small restaurant, but what a score it was. We'd been told that the Silver City Mountain Resort had the best burger around. Though I had my doubts, their organic Harris Ranch beef with fig compote made me a believer. And then it was time to camp, to sleep with the tall trees, the deer, and the bears. Eager to get on the road before the construction work began, we chased the early morning light down the mountainside. Though we enjoyed the mountain's flanks, basking in the sun's golden rays, the construction crew managed to get started before we did. Now, avoiding oversized backhoes may not make a motorcycle spec sheet, but it's a capability we managed to put to good use. After leaving the mountains, we enjoyed a brief respite from the twisties as we rode south through the San Joaquin Valley. Then it was back into the Sierras for our final obstacle of the trip, Sherman Pass, the southernmost and most desolate crossing of the tall range. As we slowly climbed back out of the heat, we were struck by the lack of cars, the dirt in the road, and that committed feeling of being off the beaten path. Eventually, we rolled into a small but bustling oasis of civilization, the Kennedy Meadows General Store. Not only was it a great place to stop for lunch, but it buzzed with hikers fresh from the Pacific Crest Trail. Though they were a disheveled-looking bunch, their camaraderie and joy at sitting for a beer and a burger was infectious. Despite my preference to stick around, eventually the time came for us to put back on our heavy ADV jackets and ride our way back down the mountains. As we descended from the warm mountain air into the furnace-like heat of the Mojave Desert, the steep curves also gave way to an endless, straight freeway buffeted by shots of hot, windy gusts. For the usual reasons, I don't do well in the heat. I also do happen to wear an airbag vest under my jacket, however, which cuts my ventilation way down and keeps my body heat in. By the time we landed at a budget motel in the military town of Ridgecrest, the hot desert air had me pretty grumpy. But after a quick swim in the pool and an air-conditioned rest in a cozy bed, my mood lightened once again, and I was ready for more.
Yogurt, good.
And just like that, our trip was over. Yeah, there was the 4-hour-long slog back home, but the fun stuff was behind us. With me, I took dreamlike memories reminiscent of surfing the perfect summer wave. Rather than paddling out on surfboards, we rode our go-anywhere bikes along a wave of asphalt and dirt, a line that endlessly snaked through the desert canyons and mountains of our week-long odyssey. This journey awaits you too, if you ride the Southern Sierra Adventure Route.